All right, Dominic, Dana White Contender Series is back. Season 7, Episode 1. We all know last year's season premiere did not go very well. Dana White was a grumpy bastard for
Yeah.
that one. But I want to ask you right off the top, we're going to go fight by fight, but I just want to know kind of as a whole, how's it feel to have Contender Series back in your life? And overall, did the first card of the year deliver?
It feels great to have it back in my life. That's first and foremost. We love this show going back the whole 3 years we've been doing it. It's just cool. It's very different from the Ultimate Fighter. It's a nice change from the Ultimate Fighter that we've known for literally over a decade plus now, almost 2 decades, as a matter of fact. And it's just something about watching these unknowns, if you will, come in one night, a one night stand, even. I don't want to get freaky on this show, but you get the vibe. And if you perform in front of the boss and have a good enough showing, you will get a contract at the end of the night. There's something so unique and cool about this concept. I think that's why we've enjoyed it and loved it so much over the years. Season 7 kicked off. I thought it was a pretty good first episode. 4 decisions and a finish. Definitely better than last year. But the thing that's cool about last year's kind of lackluster, pilot is that we got the infamous B. Joe Pfeiffer speech. So we didn't get any of that this week, but I enjoyed it. I think it was a good taste of what's to come for the next 9.
Yeah, I imagine when we turned off our broadcast as we were watching, I'm sure that because I cut it off like Dana was still talking to Lorisenko. I imagine that Dana finished with B. Caio Machado. So I
Yeah,
imagine that
you nailed it.
that'll be ringing through the streets here soon. Shout out to Caposa. He tweeted that. I can't take credit for it. But anyways, our first fight, Dominic, of the night, men's flyweight division. You know that we are huge advocates for this division, even if I make up about 3 or 4 flyweights myself. Is it Kevin Borjas? Is that how you pronounce it? Or was it Borjas?
I believe it
Or
was Borjas, is how they were saying it.
Borjas? Kevin Borjas ends up getting the win over the Titan FC flyweight champion Victor Diaz via unanimous decision. He did get a contract for his performance. I saw you were running polls for each fight, kind of gauging the audience or
Mm-hmm.
Twitter's opinion over who would get a contract. Seemed people were split on this one. Seemed they
Mm-hmm.
weren't too sure what to think of it. As far as the fight itself, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I thought Borjas had some pretty fun striking that he was
Yeah.
showcasing in rounds 2 and 3. Diaz did seem to get the better of round 1, if I remember correctly. I feel like he got the takedown and was able to kind
Mm-hmm.
of control him for the majority of the round. Seemed like Diaz kind of gassed out after that. And ultimately, Diaz had what I would consider probably the worst possible style to try and earn a contract on this show.
Yeah.
And that is a
Yeah.
guy that is apparently, from what I was reading about him, he is actually quite good when it comes to his submission grappling. He's not really like a pure wrestler. He's more of a submission grappler. Didn't really see a lot of that here. It looked like
Mm-hmm.
he was mostly tying up Borjas, trying to take him down and just control position, never really threatening with any sort of submission or ground and pound. That's like the worst type of showcase to try to bring if you're trying to impress Dana White and earn a contract. Didn't end up going in his favor. Borjas gets the win. Where were you on the fence with this one? Did you kind of feel that he had done enough to earn a contract, or were you a little more with the other half of the audience that was like, maybe I'd like to see him get another one in there?
Yeah, you're right. This one was a dead even 50-50 split on our Twitter, and I actually really enjoyed this performance from Kevin. Rounds 2 and 3, I felt like he really, came alive. His striking was very good, very slick, precise. You could tell he had power behind him too, but
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like overexerting. He did better in rounds 2 and 3, defending the takedowns, being able to get back up. I actually really enjoyed this performance. I was going through how they do like Paul Felder's power rankings at the end. I was kind of going through that myself. I actually had Kevin at number 2 on tonight. I actually really enjoyed what I saw here. The guy's very young, 9-1, 8 knockouts. I'm glad he got a contract. He is a flyweight. We love him near and dear. I've really enjoyed this performance, probably more than what others did, apparently.
Yeah, I actually was probably on your side here. I thought, probably done enough to
Mm.
earn a contract. And let's be clear about something. This will be something we talk about later too. And this was a big reason why I was in favor of giving him a contract. He fights in the men's flyweight division, which as talented as it is, as much as we love it, we can recognize that we need more people in this division. We need more
Mm-hmm.
talent in this division. And you've seen in the past, Dana sort of grades these guys on a curve based off the division that they fight in.
Yeah.
You know, a guy who fights for in bantamweight, lightweight, welterweight, it's going to take a lot more to get that contract than a
Sure.
heavyweight, some of the women's divisions, and probably something like men's flyweight. So here, I thought I saw enough from him to where I was like, I'd like to see him get an opportunity in the UFC. It's
Yep.
tough though, because due to the fact that you only have like I think it's the low 20s number of men's flyweights,
Mm.
you're sort of thrown immediately into pretty tough fights right away. I mean, Tyson
Yeah.
Nam got cut.
Yeah.
So if that tells you anything, I mean, I know he's 39, but that's a guy who's been around a long time, who's
Mm-hmm.
fought everybody, who's even as recently as last August was knocking out Ode Osborne. So I don't know what truly the ceiling is. I don't necessarily. I've never been very good. I've realized that kind
Yeah.
of evaluating these guys on like a true ceiling potential. But I like that he got a contract. Put it that way.
Yeah. I do not disagree whatsoever.
Next fight, we go up one weight class. Right, that was a bantamweight fight, I
Yes.
believe, and Payton Talbott, Dominic, gets the unanimous decision win over the brother of Tracy Cortez, Reyes Cortez Jr. You mentioned this on Twitter. This was his second attempt to get that illustrious contract from Dana White. He had lost to Christian Rodriguez actually on his first attempt. And I don't think did Christian Rodriguez actually get a contract for that performance, because I
don't know if he got one from
I
that
thought
fight or
I
not.
thought he didn't for some reason, but I didn't check. Regardless, Talbot gets the win here, and I know a lot of the eyes, a lot of the praise is going to be thrown on a guy we'll talk about later, and Tom Nolan. Peyton Talbot's a guy that I love this fight. I love this performance. There are holes here for sure, but he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
I'm calling him Afro Diaz. I mean, this guy stays in your face. He throws everything he can at you. He has some good zip on his punches, but he's also very just the output. It was so overwhelming. He stays on the pressure, just never was out of Cortez's face, even when that round one was over. And you probably score it for Cortez. I believe all three judges did it that way. You still kind of sat there and felt like Talbot, the momentum was going in his favor. How long could Cortez really continue backing up, being put against the fence before he sort of wilted under that pressure? And while he never really quite wilted, I think he actually showed quite a bit here in a losing effort.
Yeah.
Talbot looks like the real deal. The biggest issue I have with him is he's very hittable, and he's very dependent on his granite chin, which is great that he's got a great chin. But Dominic, you know that's never the kind of style that you want to depend on if you want to really have a long, successful career in MMA. So definitely something to work on. But 24 years old, quite a size mismatch here.
He was big, long.
He's gonna fight. He's gonna be like that for a lot of these bantamweights. He was my biggest standout of the night, truthfully.
Yeah, I like those comparisons. Also, a 6-0 guy, undefeated, has a lot of knockouts. Slow build, young, but deserving of the contract, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been a favorable matchup in some ways, because Cortez really was just kind of backing up in a straight line, really allowing Talbot to just pick his shots in a very linear path, and not really utilizing a whole lot of lateral movement, which I think could have benefited him more, because he kept basically backing up as far as he could go until he was literally against the fence. And then Talbot was doing a very good job of mixing up his punches, going to the body, going to the head. But yeah, definitely some things to work on defensively. But he even had that interesting little flip. Did you notice the
dude? What a way to get out of a takedown!
I mean, what a meme that could have been if that had not gone the way he had hoped.
Yeah,
I'd never seen anything like that. But I'd kind of fallen behind the live broadcast, so I fast forwarded once the fight was over. I heard a lot of people talking about his personality, kind of a cocky guy and things like that.
Yeah, he was an interesting guy. Yeah.
Someone, the Spinning Back Fist page said, "Bantamweight, you have yourself a Sean Strickland." And I was like, what the hell did this guy say to get that comparison?
Not that extent, but...
Anything else you'd like to say about him? He did get a contract, by the way. I should have mentioned that.
On to the big boys.
Well, Dominic, I'm going to let you give your piece here. So Caio Machado does get the unanimous decision win over Kevin Szarflarski. And, I don't consider myself to be I don't consider myself to be someone who can see the future. I'm only human, right?
Sure.
But as soon as I saw these two in the octagon, I just had a feeling that this fight was not going to be very good.
One of those.
And maybe it's just that's how I get when I see heavyweights that I don't recognize. I tend to be like, oh boy, here we go. But that is exactly what happened. I zoned out of this fight. I really couldn't tell you anything that happened from start to finish. It was a whole lot of nothing as far as I'm concerned. I think the right guy did get his hand raised, but Dominic, Caio Machado gets a contract from Dana White here. Yeah. So I want you to give your opinion on this because you did put out a tweet, and as soon as I saw it, I went.
You knew.
I said Dominic and his jinx is he did the old reverse jinx this time. My man Caio Machado, I think owes you a favor for that one because you tweeted that you're like, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say neither guy's going to get a contract. It seemed like that was the majority opinion from the poll. I think it was like 71% or something like that. Put that he would not get one, and he does. So, what did you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Dana kind of again, right? We're looking at the division. I guess heavyweight needs some guys. I feel like that's the way they viewed this fight. Let's fill the roster, put another guy back there to fight the Parker Porters of the world. I don't know, but I didn't think it was a contract earning performance. My only note from the fight was that Kevin Szarflarski, I definitely butchered that, has trained with John Jones a couple of times. That's it. No other notes from the fight. So that's should tell you all you need to know about this one. Not worth a rewatch if you haven't seen the fights yet. He got the contract. Maybe he can go in and shake some stuff up in the back half of the heavyweight division. But I was really surprised that Dana went with this one.
Kevin Szarflarski training with John Jones. That's just another one of John's heavyweight killers in his camp. Him, Maurice Green, Jorgen De Castro, just a trifecta there going on. But no, I mean, look, I've had this inner debate, Dominic. I've told you, we're going back 2 years ago. You started to see this trend of a lot of guys getting contracts that it didn't feel like were being given it because they earned it. It almost felt like as long as they just won, they got a contract just because of the division they're in. And no division has that been more apparent for than heavyweight, Dominic. Yeah. I cannot tell you how frustrating it has been the last 3 years to watch time after time these below average, heavyweights who would likely not put up much of a fight against any UFC level heavyweight be given contracts simply because they need the bodies. Like, do you really need them that bad?
Yeah.
This is not really supposed to be a slight on Caio Machado. Maybe in another fight, maybe in another matchup, he would look much better. It's just a trend of if this is truly the show that is the most violent job interview, I think is what I called it a couple years ago. If this is really like one night, Dana always says he goes in with no knowledge of these guys, doesn't know anything they've done before. That means this night is your chance to put it all on the line and prove to him that you are worthy of a contract.
Sure.
And when Dana doesn't even seem to care how these guys look at times, it's just it takes a little bit out of the show, like truthfully. And this is where the problems come for me, Dominic, because at the end of the day, I don't want to advocate for some poor guy to not get a contract for his livelihood. Like, obviously, it's a huge opportunity for him. It's probably the best night of his life. And I hate to be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as a product, as a fight show, as an entertainment product, it takes something from it. Like season 1, the winners, I think it was like under 50% in that 40 to 49% range of winners got contracts. Dominic, last season, I think it was all but 2 got contracts and one loser.
Yeah.
So, they have really kind of changed the scope of this show.
Sure.
Instead of it feeling like that most violent job interview. Now it's essentially like the showcase for the incoming talent. Like it's literally, it doesn't really feel like as much a tryout as it does a showcase. Like, hey, here's some of our guys we just signed. Like that's really
Yeah.
what it kind of feels like. And I'm not going to harp on it too much, but I figured I'd say my piece again because like Caio Machado should not be getting a contract for his performance. It's just the reality of the situation.
Hmm. Yeah. And with all that being said, I look forward to seeing Caio Machado in the featured bout of UFC Vegas 86.
I just, it's so true too. That's so true. They really just need them Apex co-mains
Yep.
or those Apex feature bouts. Just they're at a shortage apparently.
Mm,
So co-main event, lightweight
here it is.
division. This
Yeah.
is a division that is not starved for talent by any means. Tom Nolan, 6'3", Tom Nolan
Yeah. Yeah.
gets the knockout over Bogdan Grad, round one, a minute 23 seconds in. A lot of people, like I said, this is going to be their standout of the night. He obviously is a standout, even if I maybe enjoy, since I got to see more Payton Talbott, maybe I just enjoyed it a little more. But
Hmm.
make no mistake, the only finish on the card be Tom Nolan, right, Dom?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great performance, very quick. A lot of animosity between these two apparently coming into the fight. I guess Grod had been sending DMs to Nolan, like with his shirt off flexing, like saying he was going to beat him up. Tom Nolan said in the post fight he used to be bullied all the time. And he said the best way to stop the bullies is by knocking them out. And he said this was his favorite one yet. 6'3", 23 years old, from Australia, 6-0, 4 knockouts. I'm getting Jackie Moon vibes all over again, Noah,
Oh
from
boy.
Dana White Contender Series. So I loved it. It was the biggest performance of the night, the biggest standout finish, obviously, of the night. What a way to make a statement.
For those of you unfamiliar, Dominic is, of course, referring to Jack Della Maddalena. He is not referring to the 2008 character played by Will Ferrell
Yes.
basketball movie. Yeah, he looked fantastic. This fight was, I mean, it was really one-way traffic for that whole minute, 23 seconds. He dropped Bogdan with like the first punch he threw. As soon as that fight got back standing, it didn't take him very long to finish him off.
The follow-up shot, dude. Oof.
And he's very young too. He was like 23, right? So I think
23.
he was the
Yeah.
youngest guy on the card that got a contract, and he was only like, I think with his win, he's like 6-0 now. So I will be curious to see how he looks once he's making his debut against likely someone who maybe has a fight in the UFC already or something. Someone who we can see him go a little bit longer. Will we see more of those holes, like kind of how I was talking about with Payton Talbott? That's definitely what I'm looking forward to seeing. Now, our main event, Dominic, this was definitely a main event worthy fight because you
Yeah.
had probably the two most intriguing prospects on the card. Cesar Almeida, the former Glory kickboxing champion, does get the win via unanimous decision over the LFA middleweight champion, Lucas Fernando. And Cesar Almeida, 35 years old. So, time not necessarily on his side here. He does, of course, have a fight in kickboxing against Alex Pereira. You can kind of see why the UFC were kind of pushing to put him on this show. I think there's a lot of that similarities. They want that next Poetan, see how he does. And truthfully, I mean, not the most exciting fight. I thought Lucas Fernando did not put together the best performance for considering what he came in credential wise, but I thought Almeida looked pretty good here.
Polished for 3-0
Yeah, very
kickboxer.
polished. Yeah, like you just if you you kind of envision this fight, right? And it's the same way we envision a Pereira fight, an Adesanya fight. If the kickboxer gets taken down, you think that's bad for them.
Yeah.
And here he was able to kind of reverse that position and really dominate the majority of the ground time, and even looking for some weird looking submissions sometimes.
Yeah, he had like the inverted triangle locked in.
Yeah,
Was
like
landing ground and pound.
it didn't look like it was the cleanest of subs, but he was going for it. He seemed to enjoy it. He seemed to kind of really take in stride, trying to make himself a mixed martial artist. Dana said afterwards, I said, when they told me this guy's 35, I ain't looking for 35-year-old contenders. Which again, like how many times didn't they do this last season? Didn't some 40-year-old guy get on the show and Dana was like, I ain't looking for 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it's like, why the fuck is he on the show?
Why is he on
then?
the show?
But I can see why you give a guy like this a chance, due to that background. If I were ranking them, like the winners based off of who I'd give contracts to, I think
Mhm.
Talbot and Nolan were clear
Yeah.
contracts. I think Almeida I would have given one to, and Borjas, but I would have put Almeida probably over Borjas.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that, or would you have flipped those two, or do you feel like
M-
that's how you would have
Mine
it?
was Nolan, Borjas, Talbot, Almeida, Machado 5.
Wow, you had Borjas second.
Yeah, dude.
Interesting.
I
So you
loved
did.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so was there? Okay, we'll get into that, but we'll finish with the main event then. Yeah, I just thought he looked very polished. He is 35, but I was the guy when Alex Pereira got signed to the UFC, and everybody was talking about this is the guy who beat Adesanya twice in kickboxing, but he was already like, I think when he got signed, he was like 33, 34, something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
And I was like, pump the brakes, people. I'm like, this guy's likely never going to be at that level. Like, he's just working
Mhm.
against the clock. And look at
Here
what
we
he
are.
achieved.
Yeah.
Not only did he beat Adesanya again in MMA, he became a champion. And now he's on his way to looking like he's going to fight for a second division title
Yeah.
in 5 or 6 UFC fights. So,
Yeah. And 10 total.
I'm not going to count out Cesar Almeida. I liked what I saw. Not the most exciting fight, but I thought for him to really take care of business against an LFA champion. All right, let's see what you got.
I agree.
So let's talk about those rankings, Dominic. This might be a little fun thing for us to do, each episode. So
Sure.
I went Talbot,
Mm-hmm.
Nolan,
Mm-hmm.
Almeida, Borjas, Machado.
Yeah.
Your ranking is?
Nolan, Borjas, Talbot, Almeida, Machado.
So just to tell me, was there anything that, because I didn't hear you say a lot against Talbot or Almeida, and I'm not saying that just because you put Borjas over them that you have to shit on their performances, but I'm assuming there were some holes you might have seen or something that maybe stopped you from being like, yes, that's a no-brainer contract right here.
Talbot was the one that was close to like taking number 2. It was him and Borjas. I
Mm,
was like, who do I put? And I picked Borjas. I feel like honestly, in a way, they were very similar. Long, rangy, precise,
yeah.
powerful strikers. Talbot did have a little bit more output, but I guess a little bit more vulnerability on the receiving end. Maybe that's why I sided with Borjas going above him. And for Almeida, I was really on to him, especially when I saw him on the ground offensively. I'm like, okay, he's going to work his way up the list. Then round 3 kind of left a little to
Right.
be desired. He maybe even dropped that round on a couple judges' scorecards. So I feel like if he could have somehow gotten a finish or got back down and did more of the same from round 2, maybe he edges into the number 3 or number 2.
I
But
mean, did
that's where my
age
mind
play?
was at.
Did age play a factor at
Age
all?
definitely is a difference because you look at those other 2 guys; they're like
Right.
10 years younger than him. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely a factor too. Yeah.
That was the biggest factor for me, more than anything about the actual performance. I mean,
Mm,
obviously that plays but I saw enough from the performance to be like, yep,
yeah.
bring him in,
Hmm.
considering the pedigree in kickboxing. But the age was the big thing, the sticking
Sure.
point. And I think we can all agree if we were going to give contracts, I would have given 4. Are you
I
also
would have done
giving
4.
4?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we both are not being like Caio Machado here.
Correct. Yeah.
There you have it, folks. So make sure to comment below. Let us know who stood out to you for week 1 of season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series. We will be back here this time next week for week 2. So comment below, like, subscribe. Let us know your standouts who you would have given a contract to. What do you think about Caio Machado? Are you in favor of giving some of these kind of middling heavyweights a shot in the UFC? And we'll see you later.